Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be designing a logo for my friends. This is my very belated Christmas gift for them because I was dealing with other things, but most of that has been dealt with now. And anyway, I'm making some logos for Soup Night. Soup Night is a thing that my friends started in college because I love soup and it's like one of my favorite foods. And I love to cook. And our dorms were really nice. They were new, like brand new. They were literally just like mini apartments. It was the nicest place I've ever lived in. And we had a kitchen, so I would make soup. But the problem is that I'm used to cooking for my family of 5, and there was only 2 of us. So we always had a ton of soup left over. And to solve this problem, we started inviting our friends over to eat some of it. That way it wouldn't go to waste and I wouldn't be drowning in soup for the next 5 days. We ended up moving it to my friend's apartment, and she would have bread, and it was kind of like a reason for us to get together. And I haven't been able to cook much since then, but this Thanksgiving we actually did have a soupsgiving instead, which was pretty cool. All of us cooked soup and we just kind of did a potluck and shared it, and we tried all different kinds that we made. We got stuffed up on soup. It was really good. It was a really nice thing. I hope that when I start feeling better again that we can do more soup nights because it was one of my favorite things from college. So for this first design, I was trying to get a feel for what I wanted to do. I wasn't really sure. I was just kind of like, this is the first idea. So this is not the final one. It was really more just like a brainstorm. I knew that I really wanted to have movement and a really defined shape, which is why I have that swoop in there. I thought that it would be nice to have just a solid line of action. I'm someone who really likes circle logos and just define silhouettes, so that was kind of the vibe I was going for this one. And I wanted to have bits of my favorite ingredients into the broth of the soup. I've actually made a lot of different kinds of soup, and this is really kind of looks like albondiga soup, which is meatball soup in English, which is one of my favorites. It's good, it's hearty. You throw some rice in there, and it's so delicious. And I douse my soup in lemon because I like sour things. But I think the first soup I ever made for soup night was Zuppa Toscana from Olive Garden. It's like a creamy potato and kale soup. It's very delicious. It's a little too rich for me nowadays, but it is still really good. If you have a chance to try it, I highly recommend it. Toward the end of soup night journey, I started making ones with more beans in it. My favorite was like a vegetable lentil soup. You pretty much throw in any veggies you can find and some ground beef if you want meat in there. And garbanzo beans are a must. I love that bean so much. If I could marry a bean, I would marry the garbanzo bean. I'm in love. But the main reason why I didn't like this one is because it looks like the logo for an old Italian restaurant or something like that. It feels so out of date, even though I literally just drew it. It was gross. And if my friends are watching this video, I know you thought it was gross too, and how dare you lie to me. But we scrapped it and started that one over though. With the first design, I think I was just trying to do too much. I was going too overboard with it, and the idea of logos is it's supposed to be, clean, clear, simple. So I needed to simplify the soup. And what does soup boil down to? A pot. Well, it boils in a pot, but the same difference. A pot. I decided to work backwards with this one and started with a strong silhouette and just carved out the rest. So you're going to see me really struggling with letters here, but I'll talk about that when I get to it. In my last video, I mentioned how I rarely use the symmetry tool, and here you'll see exactly why. I do know that I'm not doing a sketch that uses the symmetry tool, so I'm probably making it like 3 times harder for myself. But the symmetry tool, I'm not very good at utilizing it yet, at least not to its full extent. I have to learn how to wield its power like an artistic Jedi. You have to learn hands, horses, and tools, and then after that you get to ascend to artist heaven. I'm kidding, but we're all still learning and growing, and here is the P of doom. I ran into the birthday card syndrome here, but I sorted out eventually. One of the big things that will haunt me forever as an artist, I don't think I will ever learn this, is fonts. Typography is not my thing. I hate letters. I am also a writer, yes, but I hate letters. Font in art is just some of the most impactful part of your work. You don't really think that it is, but it really can make or break an image. Text itself can tell a story, like Times New Roman is different than papyrus, and papyrus gives a different tone than like Comic Sans. When you read words in a certain font, it can also change how you read the little voice in your head and how that sounds. So that's part of the reason why it's so powerful and so frustrating to use. So with this font, I wanted it to be similar to the first and try to make it flowy and kind of swirly, like how soup moves in a pot. I wanted it to still have movement in it, but surprise, surprise, I don't use this one. Well, I sort of do. I like the idea I was getting at with it, and you can see once I stopped trying to fight with the words here, the white on black was nice, and I just really like the simplicity of it, but I wanted to have ingredients of the soup in there and just more dimension in general. So once I stopped with the letters, I added extra lines and dots and squares just to get the just to get more ingredients or things floating in the pot to make it look more like soup. I don't know why uh, I was fighting so hard for those three splash lines. I don't know, man. I get rid of them eventually. I don't know why I was trying so hard with those. and well, and while I do really love this idea, I wasn't fully sold on the font. The logo itself was bold and eye-catching, but the font made it kind of fall short, so I went back to the base and kind of redid the inside. And how I did that was by making the lines more chunky instead of going for that sleeker look like I was originally trying for. Generally, when you want to make something bolder, that means widening it, making things bigger so they take up more room. I was also making the edges sharper, like with the O, so it was more squared than it was circular. Trying to give things more angles so it could stand on its own rather than being more sort of elegant looking like the previous ones. I try to offset the line weight as well. You can see it mostly with like the N, so it just adds more dimension to the whole image. With soup, that's kind of also the beauty of it. You can have chunks and pieces that don't have to be cut up perfect or the exact way. You can have parts that are messed up and no one really cares or notice because it's soup. And it all gets boiled and it all gets a little mushy anyway, so no one really cares if it's wonky. Uh, and just like that last image, I added some extra lines and dots to really sell the soup pot idea. And with those final details, this design was done. The last and final design is actually for the back of the shirt. I wasn't really planning on having another logo, but I ended up liking two of them, so I decided that this would go in the back. I wanted to make these into shirts, and I am going to add more to it. I'm going to add our faces on it as well, and when we started Soup Nights, just so it can be like a nice momentum to our time in college, and just something cool for my friends to have. For this one, I wanted to have just a bowl instead of a whole pot. And most of my friends can appreciate a good cartoon, so I wanted to have just like a little guy that represented our love for soup. And let me tell you, in the height of this, when we were having soup nights almost every week, I think, we were doing it all the time. It was great. I loved it. But we were all a bit soup crazy, and I still am. So I wanted the soup to reflect that kind of raw soup craze energy. Really nothing like a group of college kids just devouring a pot of soup and some bread while screaming at Mario Kart. It is one of my favorite memories from my college experience, and when we had moved the event from my dorm room to my friend's apartment, it was like maybe 10 minutes down the street. It was like almost a straight shot with like one turn. But I would cook the soup in my dorm room still, and we would transfer it to her apartment. So it was like driving with a bomb, trying to make sure the soup didn't spill. It had a lid on it, of course, but it was like a boiling hot pot in between someone's legs, and the road was kind of bumpy because it was like a main road. It came off the freeway, so we would have trucks there, so there was a lot of potholes. Once we found an actual place to park, we also had to like hike up a hill and then up the stairs to actually get to this place. So the soup went on a bit of a journey every single soup night, and it was always a lot of fun. But once I had the expression down for this little soup guy, it was pretty much smooth sailing from there. I really like this little guy. He looks like he's about to go to war for that soup. Like he's gonna fight somebody for that last piece of corn. Lining it was pretty simple as well. I do want this to be screen printed and not like embroidered. I was able to have like a little leeway and some fun with the colors, so I do go back and fix the line weight though. There's nothing really wrong with the first one. It was just kind of plain. And I was going to pair it with the other logo, so I wanted to be just as dynamic as well. And line weight can really do so much for a piece, and I've learned that a lot recently. It can add a whole lot of dimension to a piece, so I also went in and added a few more details into it, like bits of carrots and stuff like that. My friend suggested that I do that, and I do really like it now. I've also, on the topic of line and weight, I've also gotten into the habit of adding lines, not just for line weight, but also to just give texture and dimension to subjects. And it's been a really nice addition to my work. I really like that. It's very subtle and very small, but once you have it, it's very nice. If you have a group of friends that like to chow down on some food, I suggest starting something like this. It doesn't have to be soup, but it is a lot of fun. You can even switch off who makes things. This is really our excuse to hang out with each other, and also so my roommate would stop yelling at me for having massive tubs of soup. But there you go. There you have it. Um, the Soup Night logos are done. I really like the way they turned out. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you liked it, then subscribe and leave a comment. Tell me what your friends like to do to get together and what you guys do for fun. And if you're watching this, I am still raising money for the editing cost of Ruins of a Fantasy, my young adult fantasy book. And I have an art shop down below where you can get prints and stickers, and all the money would go to helping me fund getting this book made. Here are some images. I have stickers, prints, stuff from the actual story, and also just some fun stuff like Terabyte and Blep. I also have a sticker of Blep, which is kind of cool. You can also fill out a commission form if you want me to draw something specific for you. And yeah, but if not, you can just subscribe here. Tell me about your day and what you like. Thank you again so much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.